You don't have to agree with the critics that you love. You just have to love their writing or their perspective or their insight.
Hey guys, it's David. Welcome back to the VHS Revolution show. And my guest today is Courtney Howard. She's a film critic for Variety. And we had a great conversation all about what the actual job of a film critic is. You know, I've always been obsessed with film criticism going back to my days watching Siskel and Ebert as a kid. And there have been some great writers and film critics over the years, and Courtney's one of them. We actually shot this interview last summer, but for some reason, I was only able to post it right now. So if you hear references to Mission Impossible or F1 or movies from last year, that's why. So here's my conversation with Courtney Howard. Okay, Courtney's here. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on the show. I've been reading your reviews and following you on Instagram. My first very important question is, what is the significance of Lula Maybell?
Okay, so my name sort of dates back to like the beginning days of the internet and what email should I choose? Mm-hmm. So Lula May is the name of the character in Breakfast at Tiffany's, like her real character. Name before she changed it to Holly Golightly. And Breakfast at Tiffany's is one of my favorite films, minus the Mickey Rooney stuff.
Right.
Which is terrible.
Of course.
Cut all that out, and it's a perfect movie for me.
Yeah.
So that's where Lula May came from. And I couldn't do Barnes because somebody already had Lula May Barnes, because that's a real full name. Mm-hmm. And so I just chose Belle from Beauty and the Beast, even though that's not my favorite Disney movie, but it's very, very good.
Right.
So I just sort of kept it, and that was my handle for Twitter when, like, Twitter was just starting out, and I was like, I'll just, like, mess around on Twitter and see what this platform is, and then it just, went from there.
I have so many questions, so many places that we can start. Let's start with film criticism.
Okay.
How did you become a film critic?
So I originally thought I was going to do film production, and I had wanted to be either, like, the world was open. It was like, when I was like a teen, I thought I was going to be a director. And then when I got to college, I thought maybe assistant directing. And then I started to get some real world experience, and it's really tough in production, like really, really tough. And I was like, do I, all these existential questions start going, like, do I really want to spend, 12 hours a day on set for X amount of time and have that sort of not a stable sort of living? Is that what I want to do? And I'm like, not really, because, real world demands of paying bills start coming in.
Yep.
So I sort of put that on the back burner and started doing just secretarial work at a mergers and acquisitions firm downtown. And then the whole rise of the internet sort of happened, and the film blogs and stuff, and everybody kept telling me, like, oh, you should write for those. You should write for some of those things. I like the way you talk about film, because I was a film major, and I always loved film. Like, that was my passion growing up.
Yeah.
So it sort of transitioned into writing about film, but not on a professional level, until about a year after my mom had passed away. I was sort of in this year of, like, saying yes to everything. And with Twitter being what it is, my then editor for a now defunct site, he, like, contacted me, and he's like, I like the way you talk about movies. I like the way you talk about TV shows. You should come write for us. And at first I was a little reticent, but I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it for a year and see how it goes. And if I like it, I'll stick with it. And if I don't, then I can always just abandon it. And I really liked it. So, yeah, that's how it, like, really snowballed, and it just kept growing and growing, and it's really fun. I really like it a lot. Like, I have a background in film. I took film theory classes. I always read reviews. Like, Roger Ebert was like, the program was so influential. I love hearing people talk about film.
Yeah.
And joining those conversations. So that was, like, my thing.
What was that website?
Veryaware.com. And they were pretty big. They did pretty well, like, with the, I lovingly term it the nerd community. So when you want to nerd out on something, like, it was a great place to go. And my editors were really great. The people who were there were really great. But, as the way these things go, like one day it's there and then the next day it's not. And it's like, oh my God, my 4 years of work is now wiped off the internet. So,
were you able to save those reviews?
The Wayback Machine sort of helped a little bit, but in all honesty, like it helped me get to like becoming a member of the online film critics group. But some of, the way your writing goes, you're always maturing and you're always building, you're always learning. And, some of those reviews, like, it's really like, I'm sort of glad they got lost.
Yeah.
I still stand by them, but, the writing seems a little bit, kindergartenish.
Yeah. I remember back in 2001. So are we talking the early 2000s?
This was a little bit further. So this was more like 2015, I think it went off.
Okay. So back in 2001. So I started reading, do you know David Poland?
Mm-hmm.
The Hot Button? Yeah. So I started reading The Hot Button like in 97 or 98, like when he was on roughcut.com. And I thought, I love this guy. I really loved his writing. And so I started doing my own like newsletter thing that I did in like 2001. And I would like write, I'd spend all this time like writing whatever thoughts I had about movies or some film review or something. And then I would just email it out to my friends. And I think my dad helped me, like we tried to create a website or something. But after a while, it just felt like kind of too much work. But I did save those reviews or articles. I saved them like Microsoft Word documents or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have like some of them. Like I always write things in Word.
Yeah.
Before I publish them, so I have them, most of them, in Word documents still on my old as fuck Dell.
Yeah.
Computer that I still use and love dearly.
Yeah, but I can relate to what you're saying about, a little bit about like going back and reading those old articles and things. I'm thinking, they're definitely reflective of where I was at the time.
And I think like also when like I don't know if you go back and revisit movies a bunch, but I
do.
I tend to, especially the ones that I don't like on first glance. I'll go back and rewatch them and think like, oh, okay, was I right or was I wrong, or do I still feel this way? And sometimes even with the stuff you love, it still continues to like you spot other things and you're like, oh, I wish I had like said this in my review, or I wish I could have talked about this, but it was spoilery, or what have you.
Well, that brings up a good question, which is how soon after seeing a movie do you do your review? Do you write your review?
Pretty soon after. Like everybody is different. So like my friend Fred Topel, he writes his immediately after he gets home. Everybody's different of how long they take to write reviews too. Mm-hmm. Like I like to take my time, so it's usually somewhere between like 2 hours and 4 hours to write something. And it also just depends if it's something that's like really complex. Like I'll want to think about it for a day or two after or something like that. So if it's something I feel like it's going to be a forgettable movie, then I'll write it right after. Like I'll write my initial thoughts right after. And I think also a lot of people hate Twitter, and I do in certain circumstances too, but like having a first reaction is also good too, so I can see, oh, that's where I was going, this is what I need to do, or even just jotting stuff down in notes, or verbally taking, doing an audio recording on the way home from a movie also helps too, to sort of crystallize my thoughts on things when I do get home and start writing. It also depends on review embargoes too for films. Like if I know I have like 2 weeks or something, then I can take my time and write a little bit every day, or just wait till the last minute. Sometimes I do that too. It all just depends. It really just depends on the movie. Sometimes review embargoes are literally like 6 hours after we've seen the movie on the West Coast, and it's like, oh my gosh, like depending if your editor wants it right away or not. So and usually they do. Usually those are for like the big movies, like the Disney movies or the Sony movies or something, and then you like have to hurry up and write and get that up. So
well, you mentioned Roger Ebert earlier, and I grew up literally watching Siskel and Ebert every Sunday afternoon with my dad. And they influenced a lot about how I view movies and think about movies and talk about movies as well. But I also grew up reading Richard Corliss and Time and Janet Maslin and Manohla Dargis and Elvis Mitchell and all these great guys, Owen Gleiberman. Who influenced you?
So, Siskel and Ebert, of course. Like, I love that they have contentious disagreements, but are still like, they still talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's sort of respectful, but it's also really funny and playful. Yeah. Richard Roper, whenever he would come on the show. Michael Phillips, I had learned about him when they did Phillips and Roper, or it was Phillips
with A.O. Scott.
Phillips and A.O. Scott.
Yeah, I love those guys.
And A.O. Scott was great too. And Manohla Dargis, she's wonderful. I've met her. She's such a lovely, warm lady. Not at all like. It's so weird to be like. I also read like Leonard Maltin and stuff, and Leonard Maltin's part of my LA Film Critics group, and it's just so weird to be in the sort of inclusion in that community. And it's like, oh my God, like my,
because they're like celebrities.
Yeah, they are celebrities.
Yeah.
To me, they are. Yeah. And like Christy Lemire, I love her. She's a dear friend of mine now, and she's just so lovely and warm too. And like, so I have like people, and I don't always agree with the critics that I love either, which I think is a great thing. You don't have to agree with the critics that you love. You just have to love their writing or their perspective or their insight. So those are the people I love.
Yeah, I love that so much of Roger Ebert's writing is available, but Gene Siskel's writing is really hard to find. And I loved him as much as Roger. And you're right, like even when I disagreed with them, like I wrote this in one of my notes, Roger Ebert famously gave thumbs down to Die Hard, which I think is like one of the most amazing movies ever made. But I can't disagree with his reasons for not liking the film or the way that he presents them. And I think that's the mark of a good critic. Do you feel like critics today maybe, or critics or people who write about film, because now we have social media, that they're trying a little too hard to like be quotable?
It depends on like who you're talking about. We can get into the real nitty gritty on stuff, but like, sometimes I would encourage, if I see a lot of it in the newbie critics, like the people who've just started writing, and like if I could encourage people to move away from the writing of just writing to get pull quoted. But if you truly feel that way, like who am I to say, this is the best way to express it. But if you can, like, one of my editors had given me a note at some point saying, if you feel like this feels like marketing speak, then say it a different way and say it your own original way. And that could be better than what the marketing department or the publicity department is going to pull. But there are a certain sect of people who, I do feel like, please move away from like this kind of thing. If I can encourage you to do that, do it. Because it's like, there are certain phrases, that are like marketing catnip, like bold, brilliant. Yeah. Like they'll take, but then there's also stuff like, I'll write a huge paragraph that I feel like is so good. And then a publicity department will be like, well, can we only use bold? Or can we only use brilliant? And I was like, I've got so many other words there.
I feel like critics sometimes get dragged, especially for older reviews. Like I mentioned Ebert not liking Die Hard. But I think what people don't realize, especially about those guys, I don't know if it's still this way for you, but those guys would see like tons of like everything. They would see multiple movies a day, every day. So they would see all of the junky action movies, all of the shitty, everything, and then see Die Hard. And so I almost wonder if their view of Die Hard at the time might have been kind of a little clouded by having seen all this other action junk. Do you feel like that's still something? Do you feel like that's a possibility, like a valid theory, or do you feel like no, the critics are able to view every movie individually and separately?
I mean, ideally you're like viewing each movie as an individual thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't speak to the circumstances of like what Siskel and Ebert were going through at that time. I don't know if there were like multiple screenings that day and they felt like this was the junkiest of the ones that they saw. But, it's not unreasonable to think like, I mean, we used to have here in LA, they used to schedule things where it's like you could do a triple feature in a day and see like 3 movies in a day. Like, I was pretty good at, separating out which is which. But of course, like when you get home at night, you're like, oh, the best thing I saw today was X instead of Y and, Z or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know, like, why. I mean, they have stuff that, Ebert didn't like. One of my favorite, like, teen movies is Don't Tell Mom and Babysitter's Dad. And I think he's completely wrong about it. And, but that's fine. Like, yeah. It's his perspective as a, older man watching a little, what he thinks is a junky teen movie, but what, I'm sure, I know I have stuff like that I didn't like that, kids like, or, somebody else likes or adults like, but I don't know about the multiple things a day. 'Cause we don't really have that anymore. Like they sort of walked away from that. Sometimes we'll see two a day now, but before it was like 3 or 4 we could see in a day. But I don't know why they didn't like Die Hard, because yes, it is a perfect movie. That's one of my favorites.
This is, I feel like, with the advent of Twitter and Instagram and everybody having an opinion about everything, I feel like the job of the film critic is kind of misunderstood, or the entertainment journalist. What would you say the job of a film critic is?
Just to present the movie as factually as you can, and then how you can relate to it, how people are going to relate to it, how its sentiments sort of impact you, or people sort of gauge that. Just talk about how you engage with the movie on a personal level or even a subjective level.
I feel like sometimes when these big movies, like a Zack Snyder movie comes out or something, and it gets negative reviews, the director will sometimes say things like, "Well, I made the movie for fans, not critics."
Yeah,
right.
But what they get wrong is we're fans too. Like, we like movies. We want your movie to be good. Mm-hmm. Like, and a good film critic won't set in going like, "All right, I'm gonna bash this movie." Like, you always hope for, and I'm sure many others have talked about this, you always hope to want to like the movie when you're going to see it. And then, then the movie will show you what it is. And if you resonate with it, great. If you don't, then here are the reasons why, ABC. That's what I usually list in my review. Like, this is why I think it works. This is why I don't think it works. Or this is why it doesn't work at all. And so you have to be like a fair judge of these things, of like, how are fans how are like comic book fans going to respond to this? Or how is the layperson going to respond to this? Like, I know comics enough, but not like to a like, oh my God, this is speaking to me on, they're taking this from this comic and this from this comic. Yeah. Like I can't do that.
Do you think that it's harder now for you, given that there are critics on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, there's bloggers, there's YouTubers? Does it make your job harder, or does it make it harder for you to stand out?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, my voice is what my voice is, and my opinions are what they are. And if people like it, great. If they don't, there's 1,000 other people you can read. I don't really take it personally. I do think that the way that the algorithm is sort of how it's stacked now, that only 3 or 4, I hate the word film Twitter because it's just such a non-entity.
I know.
But there are 3 or 4 dudes who seem to pop into my timeline all the time, not just because I follow them. There's one guy I don't even follow at all, and he's always in my timeline. And just the way the algorithm is working, it pushes their voices to the top. And so in the algorithmic sense, I don't like it. But in a way, like, people are finding you and, like, valuing what you're saying. Like, you gotta kind of do that on your own. I guess that's like the olden days when you'd have to do that, like reading the paper or finding somebody in a magazine that you like reading, like a Premiere Magazine or Movie Line or Entertainment Weekly.
Does Instagram help you with that?
No.
Really?
Instagram has really gone downhill for me. Like, it doesn't, like, I used to get more likes on, like, my, like, because I'll do my Twitter reaction too on Instagram, and it doesn't translate nearly as well. I think it's also an algorithmic thing. And for a while, I don't know if you were getting this too, but I got the message of like 100 other people are posting this picture too. Like, do you want to make it different?
Oh,
and
no. That's
like, no, because that's the photo still that the studio's released. So, and I don't do video reactions, so that's just not my thing. I don't think that's ever going to be my thing. So, like, I prefer the written, the written word.
Yeah.
Not that videos are bad. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm better at the written word because then I can go back and tailor and edit and do all that stuff. That's more my jam.
Yeah. Do you think that because film critics I'm making a general statement, but do you feel like film critics, because they have a more wide knowledge of film history, let's use F1, for example, right? So most people will see F1 and they'll think like, this is amazing. It's shot so well. The sound design is crazy. Brad Pitt's amazing. I love the, ba, 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 ba. But you see it and you're like, yes, all that is true. And it follows the same structure of Days of Thunder and Top Gun and all these other movies we've seen many, many times. So it just doesn't feel as original. Do you feel like, do you notice that kind of gap sometimes between like your sense of film history and like the layman, as we said, the average Joe's sense of film history?
As critics, we've seen like a bunch more, hundreds more movies like that, the general sports movies cliches, and we can pull from so much history, like even stuff like in the terms of F1, like I really love the sound design and the way it mixes with the soundtrack, and that's all great. But something like a documentary on Senna called Senna, that was out like, God, maybe
10 years ago.
I don't know how many years ago now, but it's so good. And not a lot of people either had access to that or saw it or knew of it. Like, so like something like my review might be able to jog their memory about those sorts of films of like, this is what it's like, and sort of speak to them in that terms of language. If they even bother reading reviews, maybe people don't anymore.
So then how did you end up at Variety?
So it was quite a long time-ish, I guess. So Very Aware shut down. I started writing for freshfiction.tv. And sort of around that time, I was building up a little more confidence, like be out there with like my peers. Obviously, I was going to screenings and seeing tons and tons of movies, all kinds of movies. And, networking with people who were in LA Film Critics. And I'm like, oh, I'd like to join that organization. And so I submitted a membership application, and I didn't get in on the first term. Not a lot of people do on the first sort of round of approvals. And the editor at Variety, Peter DeBruge, was on the committee that year, and he liked reading what I wrote. And he continued to follow me after that and said, I really like the way you write, and I loved your Mission Impossible Fallout review. I thought that was really well written, and you were saying you're talking about stuff that I hadn't even thought about, and so I was like, holy shit. Sorry, I don't know if you can swear on this.
Yeah, you can swear.
So I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Let's meet up, and I think, your voice could do really well at Variety. I think you would do well with our readership, and so you do want to come freelance for us. And I'm like, sure, yeah, that would be great. So there's a trial basis and everything, and so I just started he seemed to like what I was saying, and I was able to take notes. I think a good thing for film critics is to find yourself a really good editor or an editor that you vibe with and take their notes and really learn what they're saying to you. You may not agree with it, but you can take their notes and translate it into your own, like how you work and process things. And so that really helped a lot. And I loved working there. And so I just continued to like get assigned stuff. And then the next year got into LA Film Critics, and that was great. And so, you know, meeting people there, and yeah, so that's how I started writing for Variety. I'm still blown away by Peter's comment about my Fallout review. I loved what I wrote, and I wrote it within like an hour. Like it was like one of the fastest things I wrote because I loved that movie.
Yes, me too.
That's my favorite out of all the Mission Impossibles.
Yes.
So I wrote it really quickly, and I didn't, you know, think anything of it besides of like, here's my review, and I was happy with my work, but I was like, wow, the Variety critic liked my, you know.
So going to press screenings, you don't generally have to deal with people talking or getting on their phones like
no,
us
I mean,
regular folks.
Yes and no. There are still people who are morons and will whip out their phone. Usually not a film critic who does it. It's usually like
influencer or something.
Influencer or like, you know, somebody in PR or somebody in like, I don't know who these people are that sometimes get invited to them. So this is a member of like a different organization that just has no concept of how film critics watch movies or something. I don't know. Like there are still fights that I've encountered that I've seen happen in screenings where people will whip out their phone. It hasn't happened in a while, but like when it does happen, it's so annoying. It's like, I don't want to see anybody. Like I am literally a fly person where if somebody whips out their phone, I will see it and be like, what you guys looking at?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so it does happen in there, but it's less so than like at a, you know, a paying normie screening. But even like, you know, depending on what time of day you go at my local AMC Burbank, like I've been blessed where it's like even normies respect the boundaries of keeping their phones
Lucky
holstered.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I've literally lucked out. I know I'm like a rare case. Like sometimes we've encountered it like in a nighttime show, but mostly like I've been okay. So.
Yeah.
But yes, it is annoying. I hate it.
Yes, I hate it so much too. And I've noted, like when I was younger, I used to not tolerate anybody talking. If somebody was talking behind me, I would tell them to be quiet or whatever. And then it slowly started to feel a little less safe
Yes.
to call someone out for being on their phone or for talking too loud. So now I just kind of like try to give like the side eye look, you know, or or I just try to ignore it. It sucks. I'd love to be that guy who just can yell, you know, hey, get off your phone. But it's not worth whatever consequence comes from it, you know, because of streaming, I feel like the line between people are so now used to watching movies at home, even more so than they used to be when we had VHS and DVD, that they're used to just talking and getting on their phones during movies. So to do it in a movie theater, I don't think people register that there's something wrong with it or that it's disrupting other people's experience.
Right. I mean, they do treat it as their living room. And it's like, man, you are paying for this privilege. This is not your living room. Put your phone away. Yeah. I'll give people a grace period of like 30 seconds of like, you know, either talking or maybe like a minute or so of like talking or having your phone out. But outside, like if it lasts longer than that, it's like I'm telling somebody like, please put your phone away or shut up or talking. Not so much. It's mostly the phone business.
Yes. Yeah. When I was a kid, it was in my teen years. My family, we went to some small town or island or something. We were on summer vacation. And we went to see The Client in a small theater, single screen theater. And I'll never forget, I'm watching The Client, and The Client, it's like a Grisham movie. It's intense, right? And it's a particularly like quiet, intense scene. And we're watching, and behind us, there's an older couple, and the husband says to the wife, "What did he say?" Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. What are 5 movies that you love that you could rewatch anytime?
Oh man, I have like more than 5, and it changes like probably every week.
Yeah.
Die Hard. I mean, that's a perennial favorite.
I wrote that down too.
All time. Anchorman, I'll watch that anytime.
Amazing.
Even though I know it by heart, I can quote it by heart. Anything Audrey Hepburn, really, I love her stuff. So like, the big ones for me are like Sabrina, Charade, Breakfast at Tiffany's, minus Mickey Rooney again, and Wait Until Dark. Those are like my top ones that I like to recommend to people if they've never seen any of her stuff. Fight Club.
Yep.
That's a favorite. I love David Fincher's work. Basically, I think I love all of David Fincher's work, even the frequently unloved Mank. I still love it. There are things like I have like hip pocket picks, like ones that I'll recommend to people. Sleeping Beauty, I love. I'm talking about animation. That's my favorite Disney film, is Sleeping Beauty. True Beverly Hills, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
True Beverly Hills. I used to love that movie when I was a kid.
It's so good. Like, it's female empowerment. It's Shelley Long just goofing it up, and great wardrobe, and I love it. I got to like present it at American Cinematheque like on film a couple summers ago, and it was like the greatest joy of my life. I was like, this is amazing. And I actually drive by the Neffler mansion like on my way to screenings, and I hadn't realized it until like a couple of years ago, and I was like, it's the mansion from like True Beverly Hills. I never knew.
True Beverly Hills is one of those movies that I used to watch a lot when I was a kid for some reason, maybe because it was on the movie channel over and over again. That and like Dragnet, but that I haven't seen for years. I couldn't even tell you anything about True Beverly Hills. Aren't they intense at some point? Don't they go camping?
They go camping at the end. They have to go camping for the Wilderness Girls trip. They do go camping too, to try it in the wilderness of Beverly Hills, but it rains, and then they have to go to the Beverly Hills Hotel. They decide to pack it all up and go to the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is even funnier because if you're an LA local, it's the Beverly Hills Hotel bungalow that they're staying in, and the Beverly Hills Hotel is literally like 5 minutes away from the Neffler mansion. Like literally 5 minutes away by driving. And so it makes it even more like just absurdist that they're staying at a hotel versus just going to her house.
You posted on Instagram that the first review you ever wrote was for Dazed and Confused. It's also one of my all-time favorite movies. Can you just talk a little bit about Dazed and Confused and what you love about it so much?
Yeah. It's a great movie. It's a great like hangout movie. Literally every time I've seen it in a theater or when I watch it at home, I clap when the teacher comes on and is like, remember what this day is all about. Like literally, even from the very beginning, she got applause. It was actually like a friend of mine was working at our school newspaper, our high school newspaper, and was like, I need somebody to cover this. Would you want to do it? And I was like, okay, I've never written a review in my life. Let's go ahead and do this. So I gave it a positive review. I don't remember anything that I said. I thought I had kept the clipping of it, but I didn't. But it was really short anyways. It was just a little blurb kind of thing. It was like sold out. Like it was a big thing. It was a big deal in our town. And it was like, it was like the early 90s, I think, when that came out. Or 93.
Yep.
So like the 70s were having a huge like revival at the time. Like fashion and music. Like people were, people our age were rediscovering the magic of old, older like Aerosmith and like older like classic rock and roll and stuff. So it was a big deal, and the soundtrack was a huge deal. I had the soundtrack on multiple formats. Everyone is in that movie. Like the cast is just stacked. I became a fan of Joey Lauren Adams because of it. Parker Posey, like, she was like the be all end all to me and my friend group. We were like, this is the girl we want to be. The bitchy mean girl, the bitchy mean senior. I think it's one of Ben Affleck's best performances, top 4.
Totally.
I mean, the whole thing is so great. It's just so great. Matthew McConaughey is great in it. It's his signature line. Like, the whole thing is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about that movie. And the way it's just, gotten better over time. Just like, how does a movie just continually get better over time?
You also posted on Instagram the Mission Impossible ads. It was annoying for you that they weren't quoting any female film critics. Mm-hmm. How important is it for like representation in that respect when it comes to film criticism and using pull quotes?
Okay, so it's so stupid and I really should get over it, but we are not, as film critics, we are not the marketing department for movies. Mm-hmm. We can help get the word out there to go see movies, all that stuff. But it still annoys me to death that, and usually, like, even my friends are like, I usually don't pay attention to those ads, but now that you're a film critic, I look at those ads to see who's being quoted. Mm-hmm. So it's a small segment of people who even pay attention to the ads and like what, the trailer voice guy comes on and says, the best movie of the year.
Right.
And like all the marketing catnip that we talked about before. But I really feel like I need to be on a podium about this. But it just feels good when publicists and the marketing department has a parody of voices being heard and stated in their marketing campaigns. And I think it does the movies better for being like having an equal mix of men and women, or, non-binary critics in there, like just having a better mix of not just all men think this way, right, or, all women think this way on this, touchy-feely rom-com sort of thing. And even rom-coms now, it's like all the voices are like all of these people are men that are being quoted on the poster. And it's like, I think one of the big, like, nothing against the men and what they're, what they're saying, and what they're saying is true about these movies, that they're really great. But like on a movie, like I think it was Gloria, on the poster, it's all men. And it's like, this is a movie about a woman going through it. You couldn't find one woman who liked this movie? Yeah. Like, this is astounding.
Do you feel like, okay, this is the last question, because of something you just said, do you feel like, even though we've had our Manohla Dargis and Janet Maslin and Pauline Kael, do you feel like you have to work a little harder than the male critics to stand out?
Maybe, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I constantly have to continue to prove myself and to prove my worth, to be at a screening. I still feel like I have to do that, even though, like, I still have to remind people, like, hey, I've been doing this for, over 14 years, and I'm part of LA Film Critics, and I'm part of, like, but all of us have to do that. Like, it's not just me. It's a lot of people have to do that. A lot of the, like, there's always, like, so this is a whole nother boring inside baseball topic, but in LA, to get to go to some of these screenings, we have to touch base and sort of be on the list with, the marketing and publicity departments of the studios as individuals. But other marketplaces like San Francisco or Chicago or Texas they get in with one agency and then they can see all the movies if there's a screening there. So for us, we have to constantly babysit our relationships with the studios and with the publicists. I would hope that new critics don't confuse, like, that you can own, like, you have to give a movie a good review to stay in access with those things. And I think a lot of them don't know that and sort of overpraise things just to keep their access. That's a whole different topic, but I would hope that they don't do that, or that they stop doing that, because I think that's really bad for film criticism, because you're not being honest.
Exactly. Thank you so much for giving your time. I just love talking to you, and I love film criticism. and I love talking about movies. So really, that's the only reason that I do this. Really, is just because I love talking to people about what they do, and we can talk about movies together.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's been a blast. I had a lot of fun.
Talk to you later. Great. Okay, that was my conversation with Courtney Howard. Courtney, thanks again for coming on the show. It was really great to talk to you. And to you, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing, commenting, liking, doing all the things that you do. I do this for you, and it's really a pleasure. So I'll see you next time. Take care.